Welcome back to this week's podcast of the Behind the Wall. We are very lucky today to have a fantastic duo of guests. Today's guest comes from a company that has a reputation around innovation, technology, customer experience, water efficiency and culture. It's not simply just another commercial plumbing contractor. They operate across multiple key divisions of the plumbing sector, have invested heavily in technology, including their own field app and learning platform, and have won multiple awards for apprenticeship development and innovation. A very warm Melbourne winter's welcome to both Adam and Andrew from New Plumbing Solutions. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much for having us. Pleasure to be here. Indeed, thank you.
Guys, for those who don't know or have been sleeping under a rock and don't know New Plumbing Solutions, tell us, what's the story behind New Plumbing Solutions?
All right, maybe I can kick off, Itchy. So we're a relatively new business, one that's grown incredibly quickly over the last 10, 15 years. But to sort of take you back to the start and the stories I get told anyway, prior to my 8 years being with NPS was it all started with Jared Brigham, who was a commercial plumber. I think he knew from as early as his apprenticeship, even second, third year into his apprenticeship, that he wanted to own his own business. And I think he'd even registered the business name before he'd finished his apprenticeship. So it didn't take long for him to want to be out on his own and do his own way, which is the tech way. But his background was in commercial plumbing. It was in fit outs, but it was his time sort of working on petrol stations and working in the space where it was sort of large blue chip clients with ongoing repetitive work that sort of sparked his interest in a niche area of commercial plumbing maintenance. And so when he went out by himself, he thought, this is the area I want to target. And it all started with some local government maintenance contracts. So that's really where it was founded and sort of snowballed from there. We're sort of founded in and around the inner north of Melbourne. The first contract, I think, was for Moreland City Council, and from there built a suite of council contracts in the inner north and of Melbourne. So once we sort of started to build that, it was sort of 7 to 10 plumbers he had initially, and his point of difference that he wanted to make was definitely around the technology side. He wanted to prove to customers that it was more than just doing a quality job on site. It was all about everything else that came with the experience of engaging a plumber. And he saw a gap where other contractors were still very much paper-based and wanted to be able to take it to the next level and show customers what other things that they could get from a plumbing business. So, but I think he would say we're not a traditional plumbing business. We do play in a very narrow sandbox, albeit on a large scale. Yeah.
It's really forward thinking from Jared, and I've known Jared over the years, and he's always been that innovator. He's always been that forward thinker. It must be a real delight to turn up to work with somebody with that sort of vision.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a stark memory of turning up in the early days and going along to a tender interview and go, right, we're going to take iPads into these tender interviews, and rather than putting a PowerPoint presentation, everyone's going to view the tender presentation through our field app that we'd built for ourselves, and that be our point of difference. And just remember the feedback from a lot of the people we were tendering to is like, oh wow, like look how the innovation, look at the tech these guys are using, and it's sort of something that sort of stuck with them, and I think allowed us to win a lot of the tenders we did because of that point of difference.
Yeah. So how long ago was New Plumbing Solutions founded? Like when did Jared sort of take it from that thought bubble into the infancy stage of what it is today?
It was sort of around that sort of 2013, 2014 era where it was founded, but it was sort of 2015 to 2016 where it really started to gain some legs. We got an office. I actually joined as a consultant first off to implement technology in the business, and that's when I got to know Jared. And it was at the same point that Dave joined the business as well. David Schultz. Yeah.
Yeah, the industry would know the name.
Yeah, Schultz Plumbing.
Yeah.
So yes, the legacy continues.
Yes.
And he was actually a mentor to Jared. So that's how they got to know each other. And just so happened that a tender opportunity popped up for a regional water authority that used to be one of Dave Schultz's contracts. So Dave supported Jared with going for that tender opportunity. He won it, and so I think that's when Dave thought about getting back into business, and joined as a shareholder at that point.
Yeah. Through that innovation time, was there a time where you thought maybe this isn't working, or was there a hard point? Was there ever a hard sell going against the status quo from what the plumbing industry was tried and tested against?
I don't think so. I think people loved the idea of what technology could do, and the adoption on the customer side was incredibly strong. I think it was more backing ourselves internally that what we were doing was right. But anytime we took an idea to a customer, or we want to do something different to what the status quo, that they fully embraced it. Albeit working with government organisations, they are a bit slower on the uptake to embrace change, but we've got some great customer partners that do want to push the envelope, and we've done things that no one else has done in the industry when it comes to systems, innovation, technology that has allowed us to sort of be at the forefront of the industry.
Yeah. We were talking off air, Adam, and you said that it started with 16 people in the office. What's the numbers look like today?
Where it's about 450 now, so slight growth over the 10 years. I think this last year we've hired over 200 people just in the last 12 months. So I just feel like the momentum it just builds year on year with what we're doing at the moment.
Why you grow? Like, what's the reason behind the growth of NPS?
I think we are positioned beautifully right in between sort of, we've got amazing agility as a business for sort of a medium enterprise. So we're either competing with smaller plumbing companies, or we're competing with the big gorillas, your tier ones, your corporates. So they're sort of slower moving on one end of the scale, and then at the other end of the scale, the smaller players are having trouble having the tickets to play to be in the space that we are. So we've got this in the real sweet spot where we're agile enough to compete with the tier ones, the corporates, but we've got the systems, the processes, and the compliance to sort of be head and shoulders above the small players that are trying to come into the market now.
Yeah. Andrew, Adam talked about the growth of the company, right? And you've seen it firsthand on a shorter period, but you've seen it firsthand. Everyone says they've got great culture. What does culture mean to you at NPS?
Yeah, I think throughout my working career, you work different organisations that have their set of values. NVS, it truly is a values-led organisation, and I think that sort of goes back to even the backstory around progressive. If one of our key values is being progressive and also responsive, and it is probably one of those things that differentiates us between either side of the competitors that Adam just sort of laid out. There was a phrase a while back, big enough to matter but small enough to care, and I think that really sort of drives at the heart of how we approach all of our customers. And I think that's why, when staff are working on small accounts or very large accounts, they understand that it really doesn't matter. There's still a customer and have to be taken care of.
Yeah. I've had the pleasure of sitting through some of your toolbox meetings in the mornings with all the team there, and you're going through your value awards. Mm-hmm. That's huge to the team, right? I could only assume that everybody gets around, and there was hundreds of people there that were there for a certain reason, because there was a lot of care. The culture was set, and to value people against to reward people against the values of NPS is really critical to the culture setting.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, from those toolboxes, and you would have seen this firsthand, how everyone gets around their mate who's, just won an award and universally acknowledges that it's spot on the mark, that they've gone the extra mile, they've taken care. And, that's what you really want from your team.
Yeah. What are those behaviours that do get rewarded? You talked about going the extra mile, but what are you really what's NPS looking for those rewards, for those behaviours?
Look, I think if you lay those values side by side, it is somebody who almost treats the business as their own from that respect, to go, well, look, if this was my plumbing company, I would do X, or I would behave in this matter towards customers, or the customers of our customers. We've got a young man in Sydney who was doing a job for us, and he observed across the road an elderly person fell over and hit his head. And so, Logan spent time listening while the ambulance was coming. It was completely above and beyond, but what you would hope somebody would do if you were in that situation himself.
Yeah, and it would be a proud moment for the owners and to say, we've got the right people. Yes. And people comes first. How does NPS go about growing so fast? You've grown, I can't even work out that math. It's so big in such a small amount of time. How do you get the right people? Like, you must be, a lot of people will be banging on the door to get work through NPS. It's a great company to be a part of. How do you choose? And how do you keep the standard and the culture over now, not just a Melbourne-based company, but Australia-wide company over 400 plus employees?
What are you looking?
Yeah, well, jump on in if you like.
Well, firstly, back to the values piece. The values were built ground up, and I think that's a real key to the way we built the culture. It's not what management want of the people; it's what do the people want of their peers. And when it comes to culture, we are completely flat. There's no hierarchy. We expect the same level of behaviours from anyone and everybody within in the business. And when that's ingrained and everybody is talking the language of the values, the business becomes self-policing. So when new people come on board, they buy into the values pretty quickly, because the people they're working with, the teams that they're in, they all preach from the same hymn book, and they don't need management to be there to instill it, because the individuals are instilling it themselves.
Yeah. And no doubt there's been mistakes along the way. You've probably, everyone's hired the wrong person, and it was a gut feel at the time. You probably thought it was right. Yeah. How do you deal with that situation?
Again, the values are the perfect thing to lean on. Not only do we use the values to reward and highlight great performance, they actually provide an awesome framework to have difficult conversations, and we don't shy away from having difficult conversations. Maybe once upon a time we did, but bringing the values to life has really allowed us to have that framework to have those difficult conversations around behaviours. We also do pride ourselves in bringing the right people into the business and working with the initial 6 months to make sure it's the right fit for both both NPS and the employee. And if it's not, there's never any hard feelings about it not working out. We work in a really bespoke area of the industry, and a lot of people coming into it haven't worked in the space that we've worked before. So it takes getting some experience in it and to work out, what, this isn't quite for me. And there is a little bit of turnover in that space, especially as we're growing so fast. But it's probably the main piece.
Now, I think there's also, we do tend to source a good number of our newer staff through internal referral as well. So, people who, have mates who are in the trade or are interested, and, naturally enough, there's always that, you're not going to invite a pelican into your business to work alongside you, because there is that link between you and your referral. And that works beautifully as well. Obviously, we've got some really tight cohorts amongst different teams of guys who know each other, grew up together, did their studies together and similar, which, for them just makes it a nicer place to work as well.
Yeah. And we've talked about this on other podcasts, but when you've got that buy-in of your team, there's that performance level that is expected. They, as you touched on, you wouldn't bring anybody into that environment because, hey, I've actually bought into this culture and this standard. Anyone I bring in is a representation of myself, and I'm not going to drop below that. So referrals is obviously going to be key to that. We touched on before technology. So can you pinpoint one point of technology that's been developed by NPS, and not for financial success or gains, that's probably moved the needle more than others? Could you pinpoint one particular point of technology?
One that comes to mind was back in 2018, we'd won a major water utility contract, and one of the requirements was that our systems needed to directly integrate into our client systems seamlessly, and so they could have live data. They know exactly where our guys were at any point in time. There was one source of truth for where it was, and at the time we had no idea what the way to make systems talk. But we were able to solve this problem, and what it's allowed us to do is make us incredibly sticky with the customer. And there's a level of trust that it's allowed us to build with the customers, because we have that single source of truth where the data is totally live. There's nothing to hide. They've got all the photos, the notes, and all the justification around charges that come with it. So it was a real sort of leap overnight that allowed us to go to the next level, and it's been something we still spruik today when we go to other clients. Our ability to integrate systems with other clients, just the level of trust it builds between us and our customer.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's numerous examples in there. There's most recently the Utilios and what you're doing in that space.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, in terms of monitoring, data monitoring commercial sites, the near real-time alerts, water consumption, identifying issues before anybody could practically identify them on the ground.
Yeah.
We had a situation about 2 weeks ago with a client in Western Australia. In 20 days, they racked up about $13,000 worth of water losses. Quite a large commercial site, trucks coming and going all hours of night and day, not a drop visible on the surface, and yet there was I think it's an equivalent of that 21 or 22 litres, so 2 household buckets a minute just being lost into the sandy soil. We could identify that for them practically before they would have got a bill maybe 90 days down the track and had a heart attack at the real size of it. So, they lost 13K in just under 3 weeks. But, over a 90-day period, that's, potentially 10 years of hundreds of that.
Yeah, yeah. And that's no direct benefit to you guys, but it's a service offering for, the companies out there to be able to streamline their business and saving and ultimately, being good for the environment as well. Right?
And look, I think that's the changing face, particularly in that commercial environment where you start to see, businesses, be them facility managers on behalf of tenants that might be ASX listed companies, they've got ESG reporting guidelines that they have to meet. They need to know how much water they're using and how that benchmarks against their competition, and they'll make commitments about sustainable targets as well. And so what you see from there is a massive leak like that particular one could really upset, their reporting guidelines and their commitments to the market, their shareholders, and so on. So, the sooner you can address these, and that's the use of Utilios and other monitoring platforms, allows you to very quickly identify that and get on top of it.
Yeah. Do you see AI playing a huge part in that plumbing industry, in that sector then, in the next sort of 5 years? Or is it already playing a huge part in what you guys are rolling out at NPS?
I think it's in its infancy still. I think it's gonna play a huge part. So I think one of the biggest problems in the industry right now is there's such a wealth of data, but we don't know how to harness that data well enough right now. So many more fixtures, fittings are coming with sensors all over them, whether it's in the sewer, or it's water, or it's efficiency. There's sensors that are producing data left, right, and centre, and it's the way we want to harness that data for insights and to how to make things better. That is where we're going to improve, and AI is going to play a huge part in bringing that wealth of data together and streamlining how we do it.
Yeah. So water efficiency is a huge conversation at the moment. What are people overlooking? What are some of the big rocks that people are just missing? Yeah, and we touched on it before. You're working on some pretty major sites. Like, I mean, again, a little bit of personal sort of thing. You get to go underneath the MCG is like still one of my personal highlights in my career. Yeah, and you guys work there every day. But so what are people missing that might necessarily just be overlooked every day because they're not thinking about it.
Well, from my perspective, I think the key thing is if you don't monitor your water consumption, you can't measure it against others. So quite simply, monitoring is the key piece behind that. And if you're in large business, you're a large FM or someone similar, and you don't have a monitoring program, then your tenants and the fund that might be supporting that are flying a little bit blind to some extent, because you can have these sorts of issues that very quickly escalate drastically in terms of costs and reputation. If you have to shut a distribution centre for 2 days to repair a massive first under the concrete, that's lost time and lost revenue. You can get ahead of the curve on that just simply through monitoring. I'm old enough to remember when loggers and monitoring first began, and these were enormous devices that lasted 12 months tops, and they were the size of the football or even bigger, that would be attached to your meter. Today, the technology is advancing at such a rate that these are almost inconspicuous devices attached to your water meter. They're pulsing once a day in 15-minute intervals. So you've got a really rich environment to be able to draw from and understand what's happening, and then to benchmark against peers or within your own portfolio, so that you can say, well, is that right or is it wrong? And I think, to Adam's point, AI is still emerging in this space, but I think there's always going to be a need for someone with that expertise to be able to triage that final outcome. AI can certainly do a lot of lifting, but you really need someone there who can make that an interpretation.
We're also on the supporting a lot of border utilities on the domestic front, rolling out digital meters across the country at scale. And what we're seeing is that approximately 20% of properties have a leak. So there is
20%.
20%
Companies have a leak.
correct, and significant leaks as well. So what the digital rollout is allowing is that all these customers are now getting alerts to tell you that you've got a leak, go and fix it. A lot of them are as simple as dripping taps, irrigation, toilets, and then you've obviously got your concealed leaks that get a little trickier from there. But just the advancements in technology here is just showing people where they're throwing money down the drain, and it can save money really easily.
Yeah, we can talk about the Band-Aid effect, as you said. We'll find the leak and we'll fix it, right? But what's the one thing that you would like to see commercial builders start to implement? If you could, provide, the guidance of everything, and you could write it into law, what's the one thing that's going to prevent this from happening? Is it the meter reader? What is it that's going to prevent us having to always just use the Band-Aid effect? Because water, again, we go back to water efficiency. If 20% of these properties are have a leak of some description, that's a huge concern. So what's the one thing that you would advise the building sector to implement that would be supporting what you guys are doing in the water efficiency space?
I think embracing the digitalisation. I think most of these big commercial buildings come with BMSs now, and don't underestimate the value of water loss. I think when it comes to a BMS, most of them factor in electrical, fire service, air conditioning, those sorts of monitoring. But water, especially at scale, can be a significant impact. So I think now that the digitisation is allowing for real-time monitoring and alerts, I think embrace that, get it attached into your BMS, and there'll be some huge savings there. I think on top of that, rainwater monitoring, I think there's been massive programs rolled out over the years around supporting businesses through rainwater harvesting. We go out and see so many that just sitting there idle or not working the way they should. Embrace putting these to work and using recycled water, and there's so many savings to be made there as well.
Yeah. Is there anything that you guys are working on today that hasn't sort of maybe hit the mass market that you're really excited about? And it could be anything. It could be monitoring, or anything within your industry that you're sort of starting to see green shoots come through that you're really excited to see how it develops over the next 5 years?
I think it continues to be just that evolution of monitoring, but it's taking that information. We talked about data before. You just get reams of data on a daily basis. It's about actually how you use it, and I think that's where, if we sort of think about 20 years ago when the millennium drought hit Melbourne, everyone was calling for shorter showers and they really picked the low-hanging fruit at that time.
We changed single toilets over to dual flush. I think Schultz was a main player in that as well, right? Yeah.
Huge number of shower heads changed, huge number of toilets upgraded.
Yep.
But that's all the low-hanging fruit that doesn't exist anymore. And so I think it does come as the community is far more intelligent today than they were when it comes to water efficiency and water conservation. It's going to be beholden to the authorities and the government at that point in time to really be able to look behind their own curtain and sort of drive what they might find in terms of efficiencies, so their network leak detection and those sorts of options at a scale. So you sort of think of everything that runs through the Melbourne metropolitan network, 15%, 14% of that is lost as well. And so the community will sort of say, well, 20 years ago we did our bit. It's written into the building codes that things need to be 5-star efficient or beyond. There'll be presumably some resistance back to say, well, okay, where's the authorities and the government leading this in terms of their own efficiencies.
And I think a lot of customers are looking for an end-to-end solution when it comes to all of this. Up until now, you got to go to one contractor for a monitoring service. You've got to go to another contractor for leak detection. Then you got to go to your plumber to fix the problem. I think the solution we're working on and we're starting to implement is that end-to-end solution where we can offer the monitoring, the alerting, the leak identification, and then the rectification as a one-stop shop. And that's something that we're bringing to life now that is really gaining some traction.
Yeah. Bit of a change of topic now, but as a father of 2 daughters, we've seen a push of women within the plumbing sector, and I don't think it's because we have to. I think, there's some real benefits and, there's a real necessity because the skill sets that the females are bringing to the plumbing sector. NPS has been a leader in this area. Why is NPS so successful in attracting so many women to the industry that is a male-dominated industry?
Look, I think the industry is changing. You're not just lugging around heavy bits of kit anymore, and particularly in a business like MTS, we've expanded. There's so many different career paths that are available that aren't your traditional plumbing work. There's a lot of opportunities, particularly in the efficiency space, when you think about account management, contract management, customer engagement, technical specialist roles, all of which are transferable across a number of industries, but also directly into plumbing. And those sorts of opportunities, and I think they present that opportunity for diversity in the workplace. And I think that's what makes particularly the plumbing industry stronger, by having that presence, by having the right people doing the right jobs in terms of engaging his customers, in terms of account management, in terms of two of the most switched on operators we have in our business, personal king here. They lead an enormous team, and the 2 ladies that run that contract do so impeccably. It's one of our best performing contracts, and it's kudos to them. And I think there's more and more opportunity as demands on the industry and demands on efficiency come to light, that there will be more of those career paths opening up.
Yeah, we've got numerous clients with sensitive sites that demand having females in our cohort to get to service, whether it's female toilets at the MCG or at universities. So it's really important that we have females in our mix to support these contracts, and but we can't shy away from how hard it is for females to try and come into a very male-dominated industry. So we've got a couple of programs internally, a Women in Trade program, where we make sure that the women are able to catch up on a regular basis to talk through their challenges and what they're seeing, and that they're feeling supported through whether it's their apprenticeship or their career with MPS, because yeah, it's still very challenging. The numbers are still incredibly low, and we've still got a hell of a lot of work to do in this space. But we're embracing the challenge. We want more and more women to be part of the team, and as Hinchi alluded to, women in management as a really high level. It's higher than 50% in the business. It's now about getting the level of in the field up a notch as well.
Yeah. What advice would you give to a female that's considering a role within the plumbing industry? What's your advice to them?
There's more to it, particularly in the larger organisations like ABS. There's more to it than just having a trade.
Yeah.
There are multiple opportunities that are, as I said, they're transferable across any type of industry. But particularly the larger players like an MPS, where there are opportunities that sit outside exclusively of trades, but still offer that great career path.
And for me, I'd say start the conversation. If you're interested in plumbing, be curious and ask questions. Don't think that you have to come in and start your apprenticeship before you have to make your decision. I can appreciate there'll be a hell of a lot of anxiety around the thought of starting an apprenticeship, and it offers so many different ways to get into the plumbing industry. Come in for a conversation and talk about what the opportunities are and how we can put some of those anxieties at ease before you go too far down the path. And I'd like to think a lot of employers are like that. That it's not just us. That there's great opportunities for women in the field. But come and just get the ball rolling. Don't feel like you've got to apply just like any other apprentice, and you've got to start in the role before you start sharing what your concerns and your anxieties are. Come and just a conversation to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, it's great to hear that NPS is rolling out like that cohort of to be able to bounce off each other and to share thoughts, because it'd be tough to come into a male-dominated area and to be able to be seen as an equal within yourself. Like, although at NPS you're doing an amazing job at creating that equal playing field, and everyone is seen on their merits and their skill set, but there'd still be something in the back of people's heads that are saying, maybe there is a little bit of a bias towards the males, but the increase in female plumbers is just from what I've seen, and it's just from interactions, has been amazing in the last 5-10 years, and it's really a career, as you touched on before, Andrew, that it's gone from carrying cast iron copper to a lot more niche sort of work that you guys are doing, that females are probably better than the male cohort, to be honest with you. Their way of thinking, their way of performing, the way of doing things is actually much superior, and that's why I think we really do need a lot more females within the plumbing industry.
Yeah, and I also, we're really lucky with our customer base. Being blue chip clients that are very sort of public facing, they've got a lot of goals that they want to achieve through their contractors, whether that's through supporting social enterprises, supporting Indigenous organisations, or supporting women in trade. We've got these obligations through our contracts to support the utilities in achieving these goals. So in some ways, it's we're forced to be a leader in this space, and we really enjoy being pushed. So,
yeah, can you talk me through your onboarding program? Because I'm quite curious. I've seen photos and posts about how you onboard people within the organisation. It seems pretty. It isn't the status quo, as we've said. NPS is a innovator. It's forward thinking. Can you talk me through your onboarding process?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, our P&C team has come a hell of a long way in the last 18 months. We've got a great head of people and culture, and she's got an awesome team around her. But what they've come in and done more than anything is made it fun. And most of it's linked to the analogies of sport, and really try and take the dry nature out of it. So we have onboarding days where the team come in, they do team building activities. I sit just outside the training room. The amount of laughter going on in there is is amazing. So it's all about team bonding, finding your little cohort within a cohort, and building relationships right from the word go. So once you get out of that room, you've already got a relationship with someone. Hey, I'm struggling with this. What are you doing? Or yeah, we've got all these different bits of technology we've got to learn, and all of a sudden they've got this group of people that they've got to know over the course of that onboarding session that they can lean on. But there's a whole suite of things we do through the sort of the first month of people coming on board. And yeah, I'd say 6-7 years ago, you'd come in, you'd get all your stuff on day one, and then you'd be out on your own and say good luck to you. But now it's sort of dragged out over sort of a good 4 to 6 week period where there's a heap of touch points, lots of introductions, but in small little bouts, so you're made to feel as comfortable as possible. And yeah, just taking the serious nature out of it as well. Let's turn this into a fun experience where you feel comfortable about building relationships. But yeah, relationships are everything in business, whether it's internal with your staff or with your customers, with your suppliers. It all starts with relationships.
Yeah, there'd be plenty of companies out there that their workers probably have never even been to the office. And to do a 4-week stint at there to build those relationships internally is critical for success for the team. And we touched on before, then the buy-in of the values. Yeah. Because if we're all preaching it, obviously it's going to then rub off to those. So when they do go out and there is a woman, it's stranded across the road, he does go over and help her until the ambulance comes, and it all grows from that. So it's incredible. So.
And it's daunting enough to start a new job. And so, particularly if you, and no matter how long, whether you've been in your previous role 1 year, 3 years, 10 years, you start a new job, it's a new environment, they're new people. And so you build that cohort around them from day one. I hear the laughter comes in the training room as well. And you think, well, that's a really good sign, as opposed to that very dry as chips kind of, okay, we've ticked all our compliance needs and off we go. It's, that's ongoing touch point, just to sort of say, well, now I have got a buddy that is sharing exactly the same first day and first week emotions that I am as well. So and that sort of comes back to, again, another one of the W's about playing as a team. It sort of gives them their little home team already from day one.
You touched on before, there's innovation coming in the last 10 years. Obviously the onboarding's changed in the last 10 years. What about you guys as leaders? How have you seen your change in the last 10 years?
I think there's been a real need to double down on building relationships. I think COVID, we saw a real shift to the way people have relationships. From overnight, people were asked to work from home. Meetings went online, and the ability to naturally build relationships through just being in the office was taken away from us. So coming out the other side is something we really focused on, is getting people together and making sure that relationships are first and foremost, and creating space for people to build those relationships as well. That's probably been the key one for me.
No, well said. I think that's it. We're a customer-facing organisation, but we also we had that inward view as well. And I think I couldn't really add to that. I think that's pretty well captured.
Yeah. NPS has grown very rapidly, and obviously that's on the back of successful customers. No doubt there's been some customers that you probably have shifted away from NPS over the years. So what does make a good customer versus what makes a bad customer? What's NPS looking for to partner with organisations as a customer? And do you actually call them customers? Are they partnerships with you? What's the NPS feel?
You hit the nail on the head with it. It's ones that want to treat it as a partnership. It's a two-way street, and most of them embrace that these days. It's very few are coming with the heavy stick and want to play the 101 contract and throw the contract at you. It's they want to build a relationship. They want to partner and understand what our challenges are, so that they can make life as easy for us as we make life as easy for them. And we pride ourselves on understanding what their challenges are and their problems are, and solving those problems for them. But that all comes by building trust, so that they open up and actually share with you what their genuine problems are, rather than being arm's width apart.
And it's very much taking that long-term view as well. As it's not a 1 or 2 or 3 year approach. It's we've had some customers on board for 10, 12 years. Multiple tender cycles where they've had to procurement's meant that they've had to go to market, and we've been reinstated because of that commitment to partnering and commitment to the curiousness about what their pain points are and how we can expand our service, improve our service, help them solve their problems.
We're also seeing that our clients are relying on us a lot more for IP these days than they once would have. I think traditionally utilities held all the IP internally, but we're seeing them sort of shift away from that and sort of be more sort of generalists, leaning on consultants and contractors to be the IP. We're really thriving on playing that role.
Yeah. Is there anything within the industry you guys are playing in that you just see far too often that you just go, that's just wrong? Something needs to change there?
Ooh, could be controversial.
We can go controversial.
We can go
We
controversial.
can cut it out at the end.
But for me, I still think there's too much red tape in the industry, and there's opportunity for efficiency in process. I think there's definitely a place for a process policy, but there's so much at the expense of the taxpayer that there's benefits from reducing that red tape and getting value for money for our customers if we were able to strip back a bit of that red tape.
Yeah. Yeah, and where's that red tape? Not necessarily what the laws are or anything like that, but where's that red tape preventing the industry from moving forward and being more beneficial to the taxpayer?
I think it's a lot in the compliance. I think the resources that we have to build around our teams and we have to have out there day in, day out, and the training that we put the teams through. There's so many tickets to play to get somebody to the start gate that makes it incredibly hard for organisations to support it and fund it in the short term. A few minor tweaks there, and there's better bang for buck to be offered.
Yeah, so just more clean air to be able to do what you guys do best, right? Yeah. So yeah, we often hear that is that there's almost a law upon a law or a regulation upon a regulation, and it's almost like no one's actually looked back and actually viewed the whole process start to finish, but it's just a compilation of legislation or regulations that have compounded, and it almost, we had Trek Plumbing on one of our earlier podcasts, and they mentioned that if you actually read the regulations, it's almost impossible to do plumbing work. It's getting that tough. Are you guys finding the same in your industry?
Yeah, we are, and I challenge the industry to start stripping back some. I think more and more people are being employed to review policy, add policy, bring new ways in. But I challenge those people and the industry to actually strip back and find ways to make the industry more efficient and more logical about in the way we go about operating.
Yeah, there's far too many outdated legislations in there that actually don't matter today, that are still there, or regulations that actually don't matter today that are actually holding us back. And maybe we need Jared on the to forward think. So.
No, and look, exactly that layer you're talking about simply gets superseded by another layer, and they expand into the periphery, and before you know it, the original intention of those compliance pieces or clauses is lost under bureaucracy.
I think, and the other one is on the training front. There's a requirement to have so many tickets now, whether it's your backflow, your TMV. Yet there's not enough training organisations out there to support the number of people that need to go through these courses. So we'd love to see. All right, if you're going to ask for all of these tickets and you're adding tickets in, that we're building the necessary support around it so people can get these tickets in a timely manner.
You also find that the apprentices that are coming through, are they getting the support at their schooling, or are you seeing that you're having to support 90% of their learning because it's just sort of tailored more to the the push fit sort of, are we still folding sheet metal at TAFE, or what's happening at TAFE? Are we getting enough training at TAFE to then be able to provide proper plumbing related in every scenario that may face them once they actually finish their 4 years?
I can't fault the trade schools too much. We know that we have to offer internal training programs, and we've got a huge apprentice program that we run that suits the bespoke work that we do. But we know that trade schools have to cover a broad range of topics and the full gambit of what plumbing is. So we're not going to put a problem that they need to do more that suits our business, because there is and plumbing is becoming more and more specialised every day. So we just recognise that we've got to solve for that ourselves, and we're going to have our own. We do have our own training academy. We're going down having an auspice arrangement soon, where we're going to be able to offer our own accredited courses as well. That really ticks the boxes for what we need as an organisation.
Yeah, that's amazing, because like we touched on before, it is a niche sector, but it's really important. Like it is actually more important than other areas because of the efficiencies, the tracking, the data that we need, because ultimately the water conservation conversation is really important, and I think everybody should be having it. Yeah.
But now we've got 35 apprentices in the business now, and some of the courses we offer, from working at heights. We're working on big commercial buildings where we've got to have specialised harnesses. It's like you can't expect trade schools to offer that specific working at heights training, and then the water metering programs that we do. That's so niche. So we've got our own training hubs. So we've built various different scenarios where they can come in and learn on the sort of training on the tools in our own safe environment as well, and that works really well for us.
Yeah. Within the plumbing industry now, we're starting to see the construction sort of starting to die off in terms of high res development. We're starting to see it die off. Where does that then position NPS? How strong are your relationships? Obviously, really strong in terms of your customer base, but in terms of where the industry is heading, how is NPS suited for the next 5-10 years?
Want me to go? Yeah. So we're lucky, and maybe I won't say lucky. Maybe this is where Jared's vision at the start was. I want to create a business that's insulated from the ups and downs of the construction industry, and hence why we went into the maintenance space, and whether it's in the commercial plumbing industry or it's in the water utility space, we very much focus in the maintenance sector. We do have a property connections arm that is linked to construction and new builds. So we connect the water to any new build in Victoria and a few up and down the eastern seaboard. So we will see demand there fluctuate as new builds fluctuates as well, but I'd say 70% of what new plumbing does is in the maintenance sector, and it's only going to grow. And on the back of sort of digitization of the industry, there's more and more things that are going to start breaking because of how complex the fixtures, the fittings we're putting in. So the work's only going to increase in that space.
Yeah. Couple of quick fires, and so it can be a sentence, so you don't have to do one-word answers, right? But biggest lesson you've learned in business?
Trust. Building trust with customers is key. People buy from people. Yeah. They buy from relationships, and I think that's, if you prove yourself to be trustworthy, and it's more than one word. I'm sorry. That's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah. Pretty similar. So people are our product. We don't sell product, we sell a service, and that means that we need to invest in people.
Yeah. First job? What was your first job? Barman?
Yes. Working my way through uni.
Yeah, okay. What bar?
We'll
leave it at that. Favourite drink then from the bar?
Oh,
What's your go-to or favourite drink now? What's your...
Have a drink now. Oh, look, I live in wine country, so very, very happy to have
tough.
It is very tough. Very happy to have a glass of red on a Friday night.
Beautiful.
I was cleaning dishes in a Chinese restaurant. Very glamorous. Yes.
Yeah, we all start somewhere and we work our way through. Then favourite drink then?
I can't go past a nice cold beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Energy drinks or coffee?
Coffee.
Coffee. First plumbing company you worked for, was it NPS?
Plumbing company, MPS. I've been in the water industry. I started the Yarra Valley Water back in the Millennium Drought.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yep.
Unity Roofing in South Australia, although roofing, would you believe, is not considered part of the plumbing trade in South Australia. Arguably, it wasn't the first plumbing company, but when I moved to Victoria, Volt Plumbing, they were called it at the time, affiliated with Burbank. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing you wish apprentices would understand. Understand more. Let's say that.
The ability to ask questions and take feedback. I think feedback, it's a privilege to be given feedback and not to take it as a whack. And we pride ourselves on giving constructive feedback. So take it as a privilege to be given feedback.
Yeah, embrace the process. If you're a first year, a second year, and so on, there's a process that you have to go through, and it takes the time. Yeah. It takes 4 years to complete your apprenticeship.
Yeah. Mine's always been embrace failure. Allow yourself to fail. By putting yourself out there, understand it, learn from it, move on, and just don't do it again.
You learn so much from failures.
You do. You learn more from failures than success. I 100% agree with that.
Never stop failing.
Yeah, because if you fail, it means that you're trying something new.
Yeah.
Most underrated skill in plumbing?
Communication.
Good one. Haven't had that one before. That's good. Yeah.
Oh, can't really go past that. Probably hot water. I think there's a lot of people that struggle with the hot water, especially around gas and things like that. Even we've got very limited skill set in that space. But it's another one of those ones where it's the tickets to play are incredibly difficult, especially your disconnect, reconnect licenses you've got to have with your plumbing licenses. It just make it so hard for somebody to get the right tickets there. I'd love to see more people be able to do that type of work.
Yeah. And what keeps you motivated?
Creating opportunities for others. I love seeing people grow within the organisation. I've been lucky enough to be afforded those opportunities, and I just love seeing others grow in the organisation. And we're lucky as we're growing. There's so many opportunities that are presenting, and seeing people grow and create their own amazing careers.
Yeah. I think in the water efficiency space, it's being part of something much bigger. Australia has an ongoing relationship with drought and water scarcity. If it's not a drought here, it's a drought in Queensland or somewhere else. And so I think that's what doing that really meaningful work and building those relationships with customers who we previously didn't have or we continue to grow with. That's probably the thing that gets me out of dead edge, Melbourne.
Yeah. When you think back to where Jared, envisaged this company back when he was still an apprentice, what advice could you give anybody that's an apprentice watching that might be having those same sort of thoughts? What advice could you pass on to them that you've taken from what NPS has been able to succeed? What would you give? What one or sort of couple of words of advice would you give that 18-year-old, 19-year-old?
Yeah, I think we talked about it with the apprentices. I think it's probably don't be afraid to take risks, and then don't be afraid to fail, because that's where you're going to learn the most. That's where you're going to grow the most, and that's what's going to open the most doors for you from growing from those experiences.
Yeah. Now, look, I would have said something quite similar in terms of backing yourself. Yeah. If you want to become niche in a particular field or be a generalist, back yourself. Yeah. And particularly at 18, I mean, you've got decades ahead of me to sort of work through that. But yeah, I think having that fully.
Probably the other one is having great people around you. Find people that you can trust, and people that Jared's always preached that about having and hiring great people around him. Don't try and know everything yourself. Hire people to know things for you.
The owner of Melbourne Elite Plumbing, Steve McGee, was on our second podcast, I believe it was, and he said, "I'm not the smartest bloke in the room, but I know who is." And I employ those people. I surround myself by smart people in different fields. You can't know everything. So, make sure that you surround yourself with the right people with the right knowledge, but culturally to be able to support your vision ultimately.
Wise man.
Yeah. I quite like Steve. He's a good guy. Good Collingwood supporter. Now, we've never done this on the pod. Now, you guys might not have tasted the cookies, right? But but I need you to understand this is almost this is a dollar on a dollar figure on site. These are very hard to get to on site. So I'd like you to take one of those, and we're going to have to do and I'll need your opinion on which one you prefer. So that's the jam, the choc jams. There,
Can I tuck in?
you can tuck in. Go for it. The microphones aren't that sensitive. They like to hear. Every time I go to a site, I go to a lot of sites around Australia, and the first thing people say to me is, "Have you got biscuits?" That's the second one. That's the choc chip. I'll take them off you. I just need you to, for our viewers that haven't tasted them, what's your favourite Drillcut biscuit? You got the choc chip and you got the chocker jams. The suspense is killing everyone.
And as you can see by the size of me, I'm pretty partial to anything on the twos, but
It'd go down with a nice red, I reckon.
Biscuits and red, I'm not sure about that, but I'm going to say the choc jam for me.
Yeah.
But this is nice.
Yeah,
This is
the choc jam.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
choc jam as well. And
Yeah.
my daughter would absolutely love that.
Well, we'll make sure that you get a couple of boxes on the way out for your daughter. It is, they are prized commodities on site. I'll tell you, like going onto sites, and if I know of Drillcut deliveries that have skipped massive lines of trucks because they've got Drillcut biscuits on site for the lollipop person. So,
when the business is going
yeah, that's right. Yeah, we just need to get some more of these choc jam biscuits. But also on this podcast, it's going to be the first time we've actually given away a little bit of a gift. So producer Alien's just going to hand me over a bit of a...
Thank you for you guys. So that's for you.
Thank you. That's very
It's a
kind of you.
Bottle and a beanie and a couple of...
great.
we're also going to...
get you a couple of hoodies, so they're much, again, sought after piece of merch, but it's been absolutely fantastic to have you both on the podcast today. Unbelievable conversation in terms of learning about not just where NPS is today, but seeing the growth of the business and also the direction of you guys are heading with in terms of the water conversations that is much needed within the industry. So thank you again very much for coming on.
Thank you for having us. It's been an absolute privilege to be here.
No worries. No worries. And thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of the Behind the Wall podcast. We'll see you next time.